Hello and welcome to the Success Showcase. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin from the Modern Observer Group. And with me, as always, is Chip Janiszewski from the Happiness and Success GPS. And as we are recording this, Chip is celebrating his birthday. So happy birthday, Chip.
Thank you very much, Eric. Having a birthday is better than not having one. But no, this is a nice, wonderful, hot day today. We were talking before, June 7th has been all over the place over the years, but this is pretty cool. So it's wonderful to be here, and it's just wonderful to have our good friend Dave Calibey, who he and I go way back in West Hartford Chamber days. So, and he lives on the other side of the mountain. And unlike you and me, he's sitting near a swimming pool.
And today is the perfect day for it. So, Dave, welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you, Eric. And happy birthday, Chip.
Thanks, Dave.
So, Dave, you are owner and founder of BigThunk Marketing. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself and your company?
Sure. I actually started my career way back when in IT, coding COBOL and assembler, believe it or not, and grew up in the ranks of IT management, but focused on new technology. So early on, I was the first to introduce, and I'm going to be dating myself here, introduce personal computers into the workplace. And in the company I was at, I introduced local area networks into the workplace, and eventually internet, and went on to be an executive in IT, heading new technology groups for a while, and I got a chance for a second career in corporate America, where I was seduced into joining the marketing department and became the business owner for those same websites that my team had created. There's a great story where I was at a meeting. We were talking about, okay, what should we be doing here? And folks looked at me and I said, well, we should probably go ask the business owner. Oh, wait, that's me. So, and I was then responsible for all the marketing aspects around our online presence, including email marketing. And there was no social media back then, but the search results and everything pertaining to that. I got an opportunity to leave corporate America some 9 years ago and look for another career and just trying to figure out where to go, and ended up creating BigThunk along with my son, who was just graduating from college, and helped me put the business plan for BigThunk together, with the idea that a lot of what I had learned over the years and what he grew up with, now by then there was social media and he had become good at that. A lot of small business owners didn't have the wherewithal or the knowledge to do that. And to tell you the truth, it was a fantastic turning point in my career, because while I benefited from corporate America and the official training and, being able to put the project plan together and direct a project and be able to put an interview plan together and hire and all aspects of that, and receiving formal training for a lot of that, which small business owners don't often have the benefit of. When you're in corporate America, you're kind of blind to what's going on out here in the rest of the world, as I kind of put it. So when I managed to escape from corporate America to see how the rest of the business world worked, it was eye-opening. It was fascinating. It was inspiring. There are, as I learned, so many small business owners that are not only talented but hardworking and perceptive and devoted, and just lacking in one or two aspects of their craft, but how to run their business. And so BigThunk became a vehicle that allowed my son and myself to not only work with folks to talk about how they looked online, but when you got in there, you started talking to them about how they ran their business too, because you kind of had to know about the business to represent it appropriately online. So it was an opportunity for me to kind of bring some level of business consulting to these businesses that kind of needed that help.
That's fantastic. As somebody who actually remembers learning COBOL and assembler, Um, it's it's amazing to see how you've adapted over the years because there was no design aspect to COBOL and assembler. It was
No.
You wrote what was necessary to get the job done, and anything else was just thrown by the wayside because most computers didn't have the memory to handle it. Now you're dealing with the design aspect, and how did you approach that, adapting to that, because it is very different from where you started?
Well, I actually was kind of an odd duck in the IT world in a lot of senses anyway, because I always had a design background. In college, I actually had a cartoon strip in the college paper. I did editorial cartoons. Way back in the day, I actually had some editorial cartoons published in the Hartford Courant and in the Advocate. And so I've always had some sense of design. And what I found is, and in fact, when I worked in corporate America at a bank downtown, it was the advent of when they tried touchscreens in their branches, this kind of precursor to online. And I was selected to design the touchscreen application for my bank, and the application that we created won an award. So there was always this kind of sense of, how you present the information, how you entice someone to interact with that information, how you make it easily consumed was just as important as the accuracy of the information.
Absolutely. So for you, it wasn't so much adapting as things changes, it was more combining all of your various backgrounds.
Yeah, it gave me a great opportunity to do that, Eric. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, and I obviously I'm one of the people that Dave has worked for me and just done a fantastic job with me. I mean, the name of my company was Chip Janiszewski Enterprises LLC, and then I branded myself as the Happiness and Success GPS. And you talk on your website, and you talk, when you're talking to people about their visual identity having to be memorable, applied consistently, and the brand is so important with the logo and so on and so forth. And I'll never forget one morning just sitting down with you at Panera Bread, where my logo just said Chip Janiszewski Enterprises LLC, and I won't say exactly how you put the words to me, but you made it known to me that I needed something a whole lot better. And then you proceeded to do my Happiness and Success GPS logo out of the kindness of your heart, which was just amazing. And basically, it's nothing more than a graph with like a smiley line, which is a highway thing going through that with a smiley face with dots, and it's just amazing. And everybody who sees that logo sees the identity. It's the background now when I'm doing Zoom and so on and so forth. So I'm so thankful for that. But obviously, playing upon that too, you've helped me out a lot as far as putting my PowerPoint presentations together, connecting the dots, and taking things from one level to the next. I mean, you're just a great coach in doing that, and obviously, people really need somebody like you behind them to do that, because most people can't.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Chip, and it was fun to do, and I find it fun to work with people to get to understand not only their company, but what their passion is, how they see themselves, and how they want their customers or and relations to see their colleagues to see them. And you'd be surprised how many small business have not really thought about that. I mean, long gone, if they ever were here, are the day that you can have your brother-in-law put together a clip art logo and feel that you're going to compete with people online, because there are so many people that can just shop for a logo developed overseas for a minimal amount of money. That doesn't mean that logo will represent them appropriately, however. So what I try to do is learn about the person, learn about the company, figure out, and learn about who their consumers are. And so, because what you really want is a logo and a visual identity that they're proud of, that they love, but also one that resonates with their target audience. Because if they don't love it, they're not going to use it. But if it doesn't resonate with their target audience, it's not going to work for them. And along that lines, it starts with understanding what your value proposition is. And again, you'd be surprised how many small businesses I sat with who don't really know what their value proposition is. They haven't thought about it. They can't enunciate it. So, I ask if you had, obviously you went in business because you felt you have a product that's worth or service that's worth your target audience to consume. But what makes yours better than your competitor? And they go, oh, no, I'm not sure. So you must think it's something. Otherwise, why? It's so. I take them through that exercise, and there's now actually a post on the BigThunk website that takes people through that, how to put together the value proposition, because that's the whole basis of putting your best foot forward, telling people what it is you do. It's the basis for that a tagline on your business card, for your elevator pitch. When you're caught and you only have 20 seconds to explain someone what it is. It's the message that should come out loud and clear on your homepage when someone is there for only 5 seconds and needs to make a decision. Am I in the right place? Is this someone that does the business that I need? And is this someone I want to do that business for me? It's I find it incredibly rewarding to be able to do that with folks. And I've been lucky that most of the people that I do it for are very happy with the results. So.
Well, you certainly are a wonderful communicator. And again, talking about Exhibit A, hopefully we'll be getting back to doing live networking meetings again sometimes in the West Hartford Chamber of Commerce. But you were probably the most creative commercial doer ever. In fact, so much so that if there was space in the room, people would not want to sit next to you because they did not want to follow you, because you always had so clever, prepared to do that, and obviously bring that creativity to the people that you're dealing with. I'm sure you've sparked them into figuring out what their value proposition is, or a way to say that, just because that's something that you're really, really good at.
I appreciate the compliment, Chip. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to those in-person networking meetings again myself.
So, Dave, you've talked a lot about branding and what goes into it, but let's take a look at your brand. Tell us where the name BigThunk came from.
Okay, so here's where it's the cobbler's shoe syndrome, where I don't necessarily apply all the rules to myself. So I actually, when I left corporate America, it was back at the previous recession, and middle-aged males were a dime a dozen in the marketplace, and not finding it easy to locate that next job opportunity. And I decided, while I'm doing that, while I'm looking, and I fully expected to find another job in corporate America, I'm going to create a consulting firm so that have something to do, and I have something on my resume rather than have a gap in my resume that says, what were you doing for these last 8 months? And again, thinking that maybe I had some knowledge and skills that might help some other businesses. So I wanted a name that kind of conveyed that there was a lot of thinking going on behind the scenes, and I wanted a name that sounded like an internet company, and I wanted a name that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, had a little sense of humor to it, and I wanted a name that also could convey marketing as well as kind of strategic thought. And I played around with some things, and I was actually lucky because one of the things I looked at was BigThink, and it was taken. And I think it's actually a little too pretentious. So I said, well, what about Thunk? Because Thunk has that that kind of down home folksy, I thunk about it, but it also you can see it as the sound that something makes in a comic book when it hits the ground, really big and accentuated, thunk, and that's what you want your marketing to do, right? You want it to make a lot of noise. You want it to startle people, get their attention. So, combining the two, BigThunk, it happened to be available. And it's one of the best decisions I've ever made because, as it turns out, people love saying the phrase. As when I first joined the chamber, the networking meeting was much smaller. There was maybe only 20 people showing up, whereas by the end we had over 80. But people would say, "Oh, it's BigThunk is here," and I could tell they just loved saying BigThunk. I played off of that, and I played off of kind of the superhero theme of it a little bit. And you'll notice some of that on the website. I actually had this great, I had it all. The previous version was very much more like that, but I kept some of it on the current website just because I liked it too much to get rid of it. So, people say to me, well, is this what your target audience finds appealing? Is that work in that regard? And I say, you know what? I'm the owner of the company and I like it and I really don't care. But I was lucky that it turns out that most people do find it appealing. So, and it's also a conversation starter. I can't tell you how many times I've been at a networking meeting. People come up and see my badge and go, "BigThunk, what's that?" So I get to tell them all about it.
Oh yeah, having an interesting identity. With me, happiness and success GPS, it's really the same thing. But when you first came in BigThunk, my first impression was people are thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? BigThunk to me hit me as job done by meeting you. That was my first impression.
Ah, interesting. That's a good impression.
Yeah.
So Eric, when you heard it, what did you think?
Well, I actually immediately went to the comic book sound effect because you have to understand my wife is a comic book letterer. So she actually does that.
Wow.
So immediately when I heard BigThunk, I thought, the comic book sound effect.
That's great.
So you've got a technical background, you've got a design background, you've put it all together into branding. How, over the last year and a half, have you pivoted, and what kind of services have you seen your clients need as we moved virtual and now moving somewhat back?
If you don't mind, I'm actually going to start a little bit back further than the year and a half, because we have involved the company a bit. And this part of the story isn't actually a great part of the story as far as I'm concerned, because I was a bit naive as I approached small businesses and thought that, I could help them with their marketing. And we started BigThunk as a marketing company. And when I look at the folks marketing, and for the most part, it was their online marketing. And I actually used to take people through the marketing funnel. I have, graphics I would show people to explain to them how the marketing funnel works. But at the heart of that, especially if you go back now, 9 years when we started, was their website. Nowadays, it's not quite so much because so much of it happens on social media. But back then, it definitely was the website. And so I would say, you were going to try to convince people to do business with you and maybe even collect that lead at the website. Your website has to be strong, and many of them weren't. So the first thing we would do is kind of reconstruct their website, redesign it, make it appealing. And if they needed a new visual identity, that would be part of the service. And that was, to me, the beginning of the process, right? But for most business owners, that was the end. They just felt that, anything else was too far down on the priority list. They had 1,000 things to attend to every day, and they really never kind of got to the next thing. So what happened is, while we started BigThunk as a marketing company, it became a website company. And that's what we were known for, and that's what we created. And over the years, I just felt like, you know what, it's a lot of We could have continued to do that and just grown it as being a big website company, but that's not what I wanted to do. And so, it's a lot of work to get part of it done, but not always concentrated with the conversations that I wanted to have. So lately, and if you notice on the BigThunk website now, we don't even talk about creating websites, although we still will create websites for, select business engagements. We talk about, branding and visual identity, which is the upfront creative aspect of that, which again might lead to that website. So coming into the last year and a half, we had just kind of switched over from being this website company to a branding, logo, visual identity, which actually, played pretty well because a lot of people needed even a stronger presence online since they didn't have that networking, face-to-face networking opportunity anymore. So, that's where we are right now. And I like, again, the cobbler's children without the shoes. I have not kept up putting all the new projects and new logos on our website. But we have had a number of clients over the last year and a half that are relying on us for visual identity and logo and brand and things like that. Does that answer your question, Eric?
It does, yes. And yeah, it seems like everything you're about is adapting to the circumstances. Again, you started as a design, went to websites. Now you're focusing on visual identity.
I used to say to folks early in my career, even in IT, I noticed that IT was kind of fad driven, surprisingly so. But you hear about the next fad in the IT department because some consulting organizations come up with data architecture design, and then they would sell management that you needed to do this, and so they would do all of that, and then the next fad would come along, and I would tell the folks, the whole secret in IT is kind of like body surfing at the beach, right? You got to see the next wave coming. You got to educate yourself and become capable so that you can catch that next wave. But, and this is where a lot of IT folks don't do, you got to know when to get up so that you don't ride it all the way up and end up with sand in your shorts on the beach. You got to get up and go get the next wave, right? And so many guys, I know a lot of folks that I started with ended their career as lowly valued COBOL programmers because that's what they started as. So it always is about, making sure you yourself are marketable. And the way to do that is to read the market and know what's in demand and make sure that you are in demand. And that's probably true in every profession.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And especially in IT, it does seem to be a problem. I remember being at an event in New Haven, and it was a whole bunch of programmers. I was the only non-programmer in the room. And everybody's introducing themselves. And they're all talking about, they say their name, they say their company. And then they start talking about why the programming language that they use is the best one to be used. And each person would say about whatever Ruby on Rails or C++ or whatever it was that they were invested in. And it came around to me, and I introduced myself, and I said, and I'm going to give you all a piece of advice. Your client doesn't care what language you're using.
Right.
They have a problem. They want it solved.
Right. You're absolutely right, Eric. And I'll tell you, early on in my career, I was one of those folks that thought it was about the technology. And if anyone asked me, what's the most important thing you learned while you were in IT, the answer would be, it's about the business. It's and languages come and go. They're it's just a vehicle to get something done, right? and the thing you're supposed to get done is to put together a way for the business to succeed, but be a professional about it so that you're doing it in a way that is efficient and maintainable, right? So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
And maintainable is so important, because we had, year and a half ago, when everything went into lockdown, a lot of states had a problem because they had to update their unemployment systems to be able to handle the pandemic unemployment assistance.
Yeah.
And they had to bring people out of retirement because these systems were still written in COBOL and had never been updated.
Yeah. Yeah. And sadly, so many programmers won't write documentation or won't make the documentation isn't good. Some feel like it actually threatens their job security to document their code. And even worse, there are a lot of developers, but very few software engineers. And to know how a system should be designed elegantly. I used to tell folks that a well-designed system is like a novel. It has a plot, it has subplots, but it all makes sense in the end. And you have to be able to figure it out. You have to be able to go into someone else's code, and if they've done it right, be able to understand the plot so that you say, you know what, I think it's in chapter 15 where I'd find the place I have to make the change to accomplish this business result.
That's very true. And I remember programming way back when you had to document it on paper, because putting in remarks and comments in the code itself was making the program too bloated for most computers to run.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, fortunately we've come a long way since then.
Yeah.
So we're just about at the end of our time. So if anybody is interested in BigThunk, they'd like to get a hold of you, find out more about what you do, how can they do that?
Well, obviously, go to my website, BigThunk.com, and there's ample opportunity there to just send me a message, and I'd be happy to respond. I always respond. So, and I'd love to, chat with. It doesn't even have to necessarily be about them needing our assistance. If any of the topics today resonate with them and they just want to chat, I'm happy to do that as well.
Fantastic. Chip, what do you think the big takeaway from today is?
Well, obviously, Dave is really a coach also, and hitting the nail right on the head. A website and everything else is not just a one and done project, because business is an ongoing process, just like life is. So you have to look ahead and really be able to prepare for what's going on moving ahead. And that's what you are so good at, Dave. And, as far as my computer story goes, I actually got my degree in accounting in 1976 from Providence College. And my sophomore year, we had a course called Information Technology, which was a textbook computer course. And once a week or once every other week, the whole class went to the computer lab where Hal was. And if anybody got the program right, we all typed it out and printed it out and got a B. Things have come a long, long way. But it's just a pleasure having you on, Dave. And it's mostly been a great pleasure to know you and work with you, because you've really done so much for my business too. So,
well, same with you, Chip. I've learned a lot about networking from working with you, and you're the first one to take me under your wing when I left corporate America and show me the ropes, and I appreciate that. And I appreciate the opportunity, Eric and Chip, to be with you today. And this was fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
It's our pleasure. And I think for me, the big takeaway is how small businesses need to remember that their brand, their website, their business, it all needs to work together. A website isn't just this static thing you stick up anymore. It's got to be integrated into your business. It's got to help your operations, and it's got to be integrated into your brand, so that when people see you, see your business card, see your website, they make the connection that it's all involved. It's all one thing. You've been listening to the Success Showcase. You can catch us every week at xvadio.com/podcasts. You can also find us on the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and wherever you find podcasts. Remember, make this your best week ever and make next week even better. We'll see you then.